Elpizo is a standout villain in the Zero series, and Mega Man as a whole. However, Elpizo is often overshadowed by his fellow villains of the Zero series, Copy X, Omega, and of course Dr. Weil. But I think he's a pretty interesting character, who deserves just as much notoriety as his fellow Zero series villains, with this video exploring his character on a deeper level. Starting with his history, we don't start with Zero 2, but instead, Remastered tracks Rockman Zero Talos. Elpizo, originally only known by his serial number, TK31, was a mass-produced Reploid that worked at the Neo Arcadia City Management Bureau, with a love for Neo Arcadia's systems, commenting on how they were supremely well managed. Eventually, he is assigned to a survey to collect data from the recently discovered Sunken Library, the same one that makes an appearance in Zero 3, supervised by Sage Harpuya. TK31 discovers a holographic record of the Elf Wars, and despite his orders to avoid interdependent action, and to report everything he finds, he feeds into his curiosity and looks into the information, discovering images of the above first-degree criminal Dr. Weil, images of X fighting Omega, but most importantly, he learns of the Baby Elves and the Dark Elf, learning that the Baby Elves are being kept in Area 7 of Neo Arcadia. After learning about Project Elpizo and the creation of the Mother Elf, alarms go off, causing TK31 to tremble, with Harpuya taking notice.
貴様、そこで何をしている？どうした？何を震えている？言ったはずだな。集めるだけでいいと。お前のような者が浅ましい好奇心に従い、興味を持ったところで、無意味なことは分かっているはずだ。いいか？今見たものは全て忘れろ。形式番号 TK31.
A week after this exchange, and the survey, even after everything, TK31 harbors no hard feelings towards Neo Arcadia, even feeling as if everything he saw was an illusion, projected by noise in his memory banks. During these thoughts, he's interrupted by another worker Reploid, who asks TK31 if the energy quotas became stricter, with the latter replying that even if they have, Administration Bureau Reploids like themselves are treated well. However, the Reploid continues, stating that the Maverick arrest rate has risen 8%, mentioning talk that there were no abnormalities in the group that was recently retired, being swiftly cut off soon after by TK31, asking him who he is. The Reploid introduces himself as HE22, the Reploid who presented the report on the survey, and HE22 continues.
爆破されて施設のほとんどが水没したらしい。あんたも気づいてるはずだ。何かが進行している。相当に危険な域までだ。
おっと。これ以上その話を続けるようでしたら、ポリスに通報しますよ。
分かってないな。あの調査に関わったレプリロイドたちが今どうなっているか。
全員動くな。八神官による令状だ。形式番号 TK31 国家反逆罪によりイレギュラーと認定。身柄を拘束する。
私が
抵抗する者は全員イレギュラーとみなし、この場で処分。
Appalled at the decision of the 8 gentle judges, with the help of HE22, TK31 escapes through the sewers and tells HE22 that he's going to the research facility in Area 7, also telling him to stop calling him by his serial number and to instead call him Elpizo, stating that he was chosen to become the hope of all Reploids oppressed by Neo Arcadia. He finds and retrieves one of the baby elves, which would later be named Kriya, and takes off with HE22, who admitted that the Resistance had been keeping an eye on Elpizo, as he knows the inner workings of Neo Arcadia. TK31, or Elpizo as I'll call him moving forward, during this point of his story was completely devoted to Neo Arcadia, even praising its structure, yet after being branded as a maverick due to his curiosity, grew to very quickly resent the system he once thought so greatly of. Our first introduction to Elpizo starts with him thanking the Resistance members for their efforts, as the base had just recently been finished thanks to everyone. He thanks everyone for accepting him as commander, and promises to usher in a new age of peace, riling up everyone in the room. CL walks in, with Elpizo telling her that when the thought of being commander crosses his mind, he still gets a little embarrassed, with CL reminding him that he was the reason they were able to make it out of their previous base from 0-1, a testament to his strategical skill set, yet reminds him that the resistance force was created because they needed a line of defense, also telling him not to be too strict with orders. Acknowledging her request, he asks for the OK on Operation Righteous Strike, a frontal assault on Neo Arcadia, which she hesitantly gives the OK to, before Zero is found unconscious outside the base. Elpizo's introduction to Zero seemed to have shaped their dynamic for the rest of the game. Elpizo greets Zero, introducing himself and his position, asking Zero for his support in destroying Neo Arcadia, offering his hand. When Zero responds it isn't that easy, Elpizo asks what Zero plans to do, the latter answering he doesn't know. Elpizo finds this funny, calling Zero Mr. Legend, telling him that it was nice to meet him. Elpizo also says that he has the feeling that Zero doesn't like him very much. Elpizo and his interactions with Zero is honestly one of the most engaging parts of his character to me. All throughout the game, Elpizo can be seen comparing himself to the legendary Reploid. He comments that the operation he's planning will be a direct blow to Neo Arcadia, boosting the morale of the Resistance, unlike the smaller scale operations of the past. He constantly brings up Zero's legendary status in a sarcastic manner. As previously mentioned, at the end of their first conversation, he calls Zero Mr. Legend, along with the fact that every time you choose a mission, Elpizo feels the need to say, they may not be enough of a challenge for a legendary hero. And while Zero clearly seems to think Elpizo is full of himself, giving up on warning him on the second try, Elpizo does seem to hold some semblance of respect for Zero. He constantly praises and thanks Zero for his completion of the missions, and if you have a bad rank, he asks Zero if he's alright. And while he does state that he expected Zero to do better, he asked if it's because of his broken part that his performance is so low. After all the missions are done, he thanks Zero once again, and tells him that he deserves some good rest. As a side note, another character who has a pretty important relationship with Elpizo is CL. CL seems to be aware of Elpizo's aggression towards Neo Arcadia, but still trusts him as the Resistance's commander. She is also wary of Operation Righteous Strike, as while she gave it the OK, she appears hesitant to, something that comes up later. Elpizo seems to deeply care for CL, saying without her, he's unreliable, and even planning something after the success of Operation Righteous Strike. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before Elpizo informs Zero of missions he'd like him to tackle, Zero once again warns him that they should stall for time, buying CL the time she needs to complete her research. After Elpizo sarcastically thanks him, informing Zero that he will see the plan through, realizing his apparent attitude, he apologizes, and asks Zero if he would lend his assistance. It's at this point where I believe Zero realized that Elpizo was a lost cause, as other than 2 other cutscenes later in the game, Zero never says another word to the commander. Back on topic, the missions themselves all involve improving the success rate of Operation Righteous Strike, except for one. The missions range from stealing supplies from a Neo Arcadia transport for the Resistance's use, halting the production of soldiers by destroying power reactors in a factory supplying electricity, sabotaging Neo Arcadia's defense system, and the most integral mission to Elpizo's story, that being to rescue Resistance members who haven't come back from the Forest of Dices. However, it wasn't Zero's mission that's of importance here, but the soldiers Elpizo sent, as their goal was to retrieve the other baby elf locked in Neo Arcadia's vault. That baby elf who would later be named Kriya. Kriya for create, and Priya for prey. X, after Zero defeats Highleg Orbuckle, warns Zero that the baby elves will manipulate those around them in an attempt to reunite with their mother, the Dark Elf, foreshadowing Elpizo's fate. All of these missions are fairly smart, strategical plays, the success of which gives Elpizo the confidence he needs to speed along Operation Righteous Strike, answering CL's question of why Zero was assigned such harsh missions. After Zero fulfilled his orders, Elpizo readies himself and his troops for Operation Righteous Strike, with Servo and CL walking into the room, CL bringing up the fact that the number of casualties due to the operation would be high, to which Elpizo responds that those casualties are a sad price they must pay. Servo and CL then telling Elpizo that Neo Arcadia loses a purpose to crack down on the resistance once she finishes the energy source. Elpizo, however, doesn't see Neo Arcadia doing such a thing if they are handed it for free. CL struggles to continue speaking against Elpizo's blunt, cold responses, ordering her to be silent. He apologizes, but tells her she must follow his orders, seemingly well adjusted to his position of power. He tries to make a request to CL after everything is said and done, but is quickly teleported to the front lines. Elpizo in the first half of 02 can be seen as someone clouded by his past, with a single-track mind of attacking Neo Arcadia through Operation Righteous Strike, not taking the time to listen to rhyme or reason when it comes to the operation, even assigning the injured Zero missions that sped up and guaranteed Righteous Strike's success, at least in his head. With CL walking out, Zero is asked by Servo and the operators to follow Elpizo. Arriving on the scene, it's painfully apparent that the operation wasn't successful, and if anything, backfired. Neo Arcadia II, the track that accompanies this stage, is honestly my favorite iteration of Neo Arcadia's theme, holding a somber and empty feeling to the song as a whole, perfect for the stage and story. After fighting his way through Neo Arcadia's forces, Zero finds Elpizo unconscious, with the Guardians having waited for him. The Guardians inform Zero of a bombardment aircraft on its way to the Resistance base, as a consequence to Elpizo's attack on Neo Arcadia. Zero immediately returns to the Resistance base with Elpizo, and takes off to deal with the aircraft, while Zero and CL are occupied with the aircraft and the special bomb it's carrying. Elpizo takes the time to take the baby elves and leaves the base, leaving behind a message, not taking the failure of the operation well. In the message, he says that because of his foolishness, he failed everyone, saying that if he had more power, none of this would have happened, and wishes to become all-powerful, becoming the strongest Reploid ever, stating that he'll destroy all humans. Clearly noticing the mental state Elpizo is in, all of the missions have one central goal, that is to find Elpizo. The locations Elpizo visits each have something to do that correlates with his overarching plan. Starting with the Forest of Nodus, Zero finds Elpizo rather quickly. Combustion, Elpizo's theme whenever you happen to run into him, creates a sinister feeling, the feeling that someone is dabbling in affairs that they have no business in. Back to Elpizo's story, Zero tells Elpizo to go back to base, asking what can Elpizo even do by himself. Elpizo confidently replies, telling Zero that he can do anything, with the help of a certain something that the baby elves told him about, the Dark Elf. He's here at the Forest of Nodus to find the key to unseal the Dark Elf, and makes it a race. Moving through the stage, as Zero reaches Elpizo, he goes through a door, while Zero is stopped by Bubble Heckalot. After swiftly taking care of him, Zero finds X halted by the baby elves. Elpizo laughs, stating that he'll become as strong as Zero, maybe even stronger than him, but makes the effort to reassure him that he won't use his power for evil, but for world peace. In the next mission, Elpizo is located at Neo Arcadia's Antarctica computer zone, looking for the password of Neo Arcadia's facilities, and succeeds due to Leviathan choosing to fight Zero rather than stopping him. It's at this point you may have realized that Elpizo is using his insider knowledge of Neo Arcadia for his plan, the same exact reason HE-22 originally kept a watchful eye on him. Afterwards, for the third mission, Elpizo was found near the meeting spot of the crystal cave that the bombardment aircraft crashed. After Zero barely misses Elpizo, Harpuya mentions that Elpizo retrieved the IFF beacon, which CL says is necessary to sneak into enemy territory without being noticed. Lastly, at the shuttle factory, while CL at first doesn't understand why he went there, she later learns he stole a transporter, realizing Elpizo had plans to go to Neo Arcadia alone. After this realization, a voice laughs to itself over the intercom, stating Zero couldn't stop them. Of course, it turns out to be Elpizo, who tells everyone that he is in the deepest core of Neo Arcadia, where one half of the Dark Elf is sealed. While he is successful in awakening this half of the Dark Elf, X interrupts him, buying Zero time, as the next few stages are a mad dash to Elpizo's location. That is, until the Wind Temple, where Elpizo stands over a defeated Harpuya, boasting about the power he will soon have, and how he plans to use it to destroy humans who he sees as wasting the world's energy. After Elpizo mentions destroying X's body to awaken the true Dark Elf, Harpuya says he won't let that happen, leaving Elpizo shocked that he can even still say such a thing, punishing him for his words, even asking Harpuya if he regretted disrespecting him, before allowing the baby elves to have fun, taking control of Harpuya. After Zero saves Harpuya from the baby elves' hold, he urges Zero to stop Elpizo. Before reaching Elpizo, Zero is faced with the Mutos Reploids he faced throughout the game. Even though they were likely repaired to act as guard against Elpizo, they were all manipulated, likely through the elves at Elpizo's hand. Elpizo in this half of the game acts as a sketchy and sinister character, working towards a goal of absolute power by using his knowledge of Neo Arcadia's structure against them, forcing anyone who stands in his way to bend to his will. When Zero finally reaches Elpizo, who had purposely delayed the destruction of X's body, Elpizo stops Zero, forcing him to watch as he thrusts his rapier through X's body. With the Dark Elf now whole, he quickly fuses with it and the baby elves. Now fused with the Dark and baby elves, Elpizo plans to retire Zero and then make quick work of all the humans of the world, asking Zero if he'd think a world of only Reploids would be paradise. Elpizo in this fight seems to talk in a very cool and composed manner, with his words making it seem as if he's enjoying himself, even laughing throughout the fight. While Elpizo was confident in this newfound power he had, it wasn't enough to defeat Zero. Frustrated, Elpizo believes the power given to him by the Dark Elf isn't enough, and wishes for more power. And as the name of his theme correlates to the story, this last wish of his would be punished. While Elpizo seemed more cool and collected in his previous form, Elpizo in his second transformation has a much more aggravated and sharper tone, while he's very clearly taking the fight more seriously with his word choice. However, even with the added power, he was still no match for Zero. Elpizo, realizing everything he's done, thanks Zero repeatedly, as he realizes that if Zero hadn't stopped him, he would have done something truly unforgivable. He admits that he was weak-minded, saying that accepting the failures you make in life is a very hard thing to do. He tells Zero that he thinks he's gotten stronger thanks to that lesson, telling Zero goodbye and asking Zero to say goodbye to CL for him. However, in a change of fate, the Dark Elf momentarily breaks free from its curse and converts Elpizo into a Cyber Elf, saving his life in the process. Afterwards, Elpizo tells Zero that she isn't evil and leaves. Elpizo is a character I find so interesting and made this video on because even though he changes so much through the course of the story, there's a consistency to his story, to its quality, his personality, and goals that many characters lack after a while. He may not be my favorite Mega Man villain, or even my favorite Zero series villain, but I do feel he deserves more notoriety than he gets. Before I close this video, there's one more thing I want to talk about. In 03, when this Elpizo card is activated, you'll be able to find a cyber elf in the resistance base. When interacting with it, Zero says it has a warm light, but there's a sadness to it, almost as if it remembers this base. Thank you so much for watching the video for this long. I really appreciate it. Well, have a great rest of your day. See ya!